Let's go.
Hey everyone, I am MSK, aka Master Swag King, coming at you guys today with another video. And if you guys are returning viewers or new viewers, then please consider subscribing to the channel if you have not already. Leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it and comment down below. Also, make sure you guys hit the notification bell. That way you guys can get notified on whenever I upload a brand new video or go live. And in today's video, we are going to be talking about Venom: The Last Dance. The Sony's Spider-Man universe kicked off back in 2018 with the release of Venom. This movie had a budget of roughly around $100 million. The film starred Tom Hardy as Eddie Brock / Venom, and this movie went on to gross over $800 million at the worldwide box office. And since Venom did so well at the worldwide box office back in 2018, Sony thought of this amazing idea, which was to make a shared cinematic universe of Spider-Man's villains getting their own solo movies without Spider-Man in them. Truly a genius idea. And if you guys couldn't catch my sarcasm there, it's actually a terrible idea. Followed up after this movie was Venom: Let There Be Carnage, then Morbius, then we ended up getting Madam Web, and in this year in 2024, we finally got Venom: The Last Dance, which is the third and final film in the Venom trilogy. And to wrap up 2024, we are going to be getting Kraven the Hunter, because that is exactly what the superhero genre needed. More Sony's Spider-Man universe movies. But how well did Venom: The Last Dance do in week 1 for its worldwide box office debut? So Venom: The Last Dance is interesting because there were not like conflicting numbers about what ended up coming out. People were considering this movie a flop, but in my own personal opinion, it only flopped in one area, and I will go over that in just a moment. But to actually hone in to my point that I just brought up there, keep in mind, even all the way as back from the first Venom movie, these movies were mostly always carried by their international numbers. Look at that disparity and difference right there from the domestic to the international performance at the worldwide box office for the first Venom film when it came out in 2018. A $400 million difference right there. And then with Venom: Let There Be Carnage, we didn't have that big of a difference there. The difference right there is about what? $50 to $60 million, but still overall mostly carried by the international audience. Now with Venom 3, things have changed significantly since then, because this universe, this Sony Spider-Man universe, has a lot of bad films in it. The universe has no direction, and it's just Sony releasing a bunch of random Spider-Man adjacent movie projects because they simply do not want to lose the rights to Spider-Man, because they have to release a certain amount of movies adjacent to Spider-Man or Spider-Man films to keep the rights to the character. Now, Venom: The Last Dance has actually a budget of roughly around $120 million actually, right? So this movie, to actually make a profit for Sony, would have to take around roughly, what, $600 million potentially to break even, with about maybe $700 million to get into that profit range. And that's if you lowball things, considering the fact that, you know, movie theaters got to take their cuts, distribution costs, and marketing as well. So where did Venom: The Last Dance end up being at on the box office charts for what it had to take in? So domestically, this movie ended up bombing and underperforming. So the movie bombed domestically, but then ended up actually doing very well internationally. And luckily for this movie, the international audience showed up for this movie more than the domestic audience for Venom 3. And people are going to ask, why do you think that is? So the reason why I think that is because, like I mentioned earlier in the video, these movies stink. Like the first Venom movies are not good. The only scene that I liked in them, well, I don't like anything in the second movie, really. I think they're all just not good, obviously. The first movie, it's like so bad it's, no, I wouldn't even say so bad it's good. It's just so bad it's bad. but there was a couple scenes in there that I did enjoy, like when he first transforms. And outside of that, the when he was like, Eddie, we can do whatever we want, and he left that Miss Chang's liquor store, and the Venom Eminem song played. Those were like decent parts in it. I couldn't tell you what part I even liked in the second one. Maybe when Carnage first transformed and he did that tornado attack he did on the fucking guards. That was pretty much it. I mean, they casted I think Woody Harrelson to be Carnage, actually, I think. Let me make sure I get that right, actually. Who did they cast? Yeah, I think I was right. Yeah. I mean, they casted Woody Harrelson to be Carnage, and, I think that was the right casting, but it just ended up just not doing as much. Like, he just ended up just being just meh, honestly. It's a big symbiote character right there, and he ended up just basically just being in a shit movie. So, the reception of these Sony's Spider-Man universe movies has not been very good. Let's just be honest here. Like, the Venom movies are very just, like, popcorn flick movies at best that are just really bad popcorn flick movies. No one even cared for Madam Web. That was basically just DOA upon arrival. And Morbius is certainly dead on arrival as it was. And then Sony thought, because of the memes that movie created, that means that there was genuine interest there, only for them to re-release that movie and it bombed again. Crazy. No one likes these movies. And they tried announcing like El Muerto, that got canceled. Another movie with the black guy who played Lando in the Han Solo movie, that ended up getting basically scrapped. Like, nothing here. And then they want to reboot this universe, and it's like, what are you rebooting? There's nothing of value here. Reboot to what? How about in your second reboot, put Spider-Man in... How about this? Start up with a Spider-Man movie, okay? Then have his villains face him in said Spider-Man movie. Just make Spider-Man movies that feature these guys as his villains. Why did we even go down this route? The reason why we went down this route is because of what I mentioned earlier in the video of Sony wanting to keep the characters' rights, as well as they thought the superhero craze would constantly just be there to the point where if you just put out anything superhero related, people would just flock to the theaters and watch it, and that has not been the case for quite some time. And it really never was the case. That was only a thing for the MCU, because DC never had that, so it was really just only an MCU thing. Venom: The Last Dance box office numbers, total worldwide domestic opening and records. Venom: The Last Dance will be the subject of box office reports for a while, from its opening weekend haul to worldwide domestic and international numbers. Venom 3's climactic ending marks the end of the trilogy set in Sony's Spider-Man universe, though surprisingly, it teases a future for one of its new characters. The villainous Null was teased to have a lasting vendetta in Venom 3's post-credit scene that will continue to affect the franchise even if the titular Lethal Protector is no longer bonded to Eddie Brock. And yes, this also happens in the Venom comics as well, and even in multiple Venom wars they've had. The symbiotes bounced between a lot of people, but let's be honest here, most people only know Eddie Brock as the carrier of the Venom symbiote. Just like with Ghost Rider, people only know Johnny Blaze. The other guy is just not even as talked about, honestly. Although Venom's future is uncertain, the story of Venom 4 could be greenlit should The Last Dance perform well at the box office. Or unless Sony reboots this dog shit-ass universe that is trash and just inconsistent and just terrible. No ideas what they want to do with this dog shit-ass universe. After all, Sony cannot afford to be picky given the previous failures of Morbius and Madam Web, both commercially and concerning their critical ranking within the Sony Spider-Man universe. The Venom franchise is Sony's sole success in recent times concerning superhero movies, begging the question of whether Venom: The Last Dance has continued this trend or fallen short of expectations at the last hurdle. Overall, Venom: The Last Dance's box office returns look somewhat promising as of the conclusion of its opening weekend. The film was produced on a budget of $120 million. This production cost is somewhat of a rarity in the world of modern superhero cinema, given that most movies in this genre are produced with budgets that balloon up to and beyond $200 million. However, Venom: The Last Dance was evidently a more cost-cutting production, rendering its total box office gross so far all the more impressive. Sony will hope Venom: The Last Dance can defy the norm and hold its place as a box office hit for a month or longer. So yeah, this movie isn't getting released digitally for quite some time. As of October 27th, 2024, At the end of Venom 3's opening weekend, the film has grossed a healthy $175 million. So, hey, I'll admit, I was wrong. I thought this movie was basically going to bomb given its early track record leading up to it and the reception for the previous two Venom movies not being that good. It taking in $175 million week one for its opening weekend is great. It's impressive. But that's internationally. Domestically, this movie failed, right? This marks a healthy start for the film at the box office, with all eyes now turning to whether the film will have legs or not. Yes, so week one, it defied expectations, at least internationally, to make up for the domestic failure. Now all that matters is, in week two, can this movie actually have a nice week two showing? Because that drop-off could be very, very big, right? Because word of mouth on this movie is also divisive and not good like the previous two movies. So it's really just at the conclusion of week two, we will see if this movie will actually be able to have a decent box office life cycle or just even end up breaking even at that point. In an industry which the gap between theatrical and home releases is becoming increasingly shorter, Sony will hope Venom: The Last Dance can defy the norm and hold its place as a box office hit for a month or longer. Regarding Venom: The Last Dance's opening weekend box office numbers, they strike somewhat of a dichotomy. Domestically, Venom: The Last Dance opened below expectations. In the United States and Canada, Venom 3 only grossed around $51 million, well below the expected opening haul of $61 million. Despite this number likely being disappointing to those at Sony Pictures, the international market looks much more promising regarding Venom: The Last Dance's opening weekend gross. So you see the film's budget, domestic opening weekend, absolutely way below expectations. This could be a sign that domestically, for superhero movies going forward, we're really going to have to temper our expectations on how much money they're going to make opening weekend, unless it is a slam dunk character or like a big A-lister getting a movie. I mean, Venom is very popular, and A-lister is probably somewhere you would probably put in, maybe on some categories, right? If you talk to enough people. And this guy's third movie was bombed opening weekend domestically. Internationally, opening weekend, you can see it made $124 million. So internationally, this movie was definitely carried by the people overseas, obviously. Just like in the first movie as well. And somewhat a little bit there in the second movie. For a total of $175 million opening weekend. Overseas, Venom 3's opening weekend box office haul almost tripled that of its domestic total. The film pulled in a highly respectable $124 million outside of North America, taking its worldwide opening weekend total to $175 million. Against its fairly modest $120 million budget, these numbers are undoubtedly pleasing to Sony. Furthermore, Venom: The Last Dance opened to a $46 million total in China alone, the highest opening weekend numbers for a superhero movie since 2019, and the highest Hollywood opening of 2024. Now keep in mind, China has blocked superhero movies actually getting into their cinemas for a little bit there. So yeah, this might be the biggest opening for China for a little bit for a superhero movie, but it's also due to the fact that if you don't tell people that underlying level of context there, then they're just not going to know why. That is kind of impressive, but there's reasons why that can really just be a stat. It's like a disingenuous, useless stat there based off actual circumstances. As alluded to, the Venom franchise is easily Sony's most successful current superhero franchise. With Kraven the Hunter still a Marvel movie yet to release in 2024, Sony will be hoping another hero is added to the shorter list of successful superhero projects within the SSU. Venom 3's success is emulative of its two predecessors, which easily outrank Morbius and Madam Web commercially. And to be fair, Venom is just a much more popular character than those two, and nobody wanted solo movie comic book projects on Madam Web and Morbius. Morbius best fits if he's either a villain or he's a part of that group Midnight Suns, okay? Then, Morbius holding his own movie is just stupid in of itself, especially Madam Web. Madam Web only functions as that old lady who can travel in the multiverse. What they did there was just, I saw the first trailer for Madam Web, and I'm like, yep, I'm not in it. No way am I subjecting myself to that level of trash. While it remains to be seen how Venom 3's total will shape up in comparison to its predecessors, at the end of its run, the opening weekend numbers can be compared. Venom 3's $175 million total naturally pales in comparisons to Venom's worldwide gross of $856 million. To keep in mind, that's the end total of the first Venom movie, okay? So, is it on track to kind of hit that? I don't know yet. And right there, as I just pointed out, comparing a movie at its end of its box office cycle to one that just started can be somewhat of a comparison, but it just depends on which movies you're talking about. Like, are they saying it has no legs to hit it, the original movie's heights? I would probably say so. When comparing opening weekend numbers only, however, Venom the Last Dance's box office looks more promising. Venom's opening weekend worldwide totaled was $205 million, only $35 million more than Venom the Last Dance. Given that Venom Let There Be Carnage was a certain virus release, only its domestic opening weekend numbers were recorded, 90 million. This is almost double Venom the Last Dance's opening weekend numbers domestically, but the third movie could go on to earn more than Venom 2's worldwide total of $506 million. When comparing Venom 3 to other Sony's Spider-Man universe movies, the film looks like an incredible success. Well, yeah, it does. When you compare Venom 3 to two piles of shit that were released, yeah, it's gonna look like treasure, honestly. Morbius and Madam Web are counted among the biggest superhero box office flops of all time, earning lowly worldwide totals of $167 million and $100 million, respectively. This means that Venom the Last Dance has outgrossed both worldwide totals in only one weekend. As such, Venom 3 is expected to have similar legs to its predecessors, if not reaching the heights of the first movie. Naturally, the biggest question coming out of Venom the Last Dance and its box office haul is what these numbers mean for the franchise. For all intents and purposes, Venom 3 was set to be the last movie in the franchise. Star Tom Hardy has implied in an Instagram comment that it is his final appearance as Eddie Brock in Venom, as supported by one of the many deaths in Venom The Last Dance. However, if Venom 3 proves to have legs at the worldwide box office after its promising debut, Venom 3 could be on the cards. You know, could be, honestly. There was a small hint in Venom 3's post-credit scene that a speck of the Venom symbiote survived, leaving the door open for more adventures in the future. It could be the case that Sony Pictures billed Venom 3 as the final movie in case the film flopped, like Morbius and Madam Web did. If it proves not to, the threads left dangling could mean more Venom stories in the future in a business that is ever increasingly reliant on box office numbers. Those of Venom The Last Dance could dictate whether the film's title is incorrect after all. Well, all of that pretty much just depends on week 2. If week 2, the movie's drop isn't overall that bad, then you could also basically go like, oh, this is really going to have some legs here. You know, that's really all it is. It all comes down to week 2. So how was it tracking after I went over that? So the movie so far has taken in $184 million worldwide. So it went from 175 to 184. So not a huge jump since week 1. Maybe this movie only performed well week 1 because of just like people just wanted to check out the final adventure for this character, even though the other 2 movies, the actual word of mouth of them is so bad that it maybe have finally impacted this movie. Like I said before, the general word of mouth online for this film has been all over the place, honestly. So looking at these numbers right now, like I mentioned before, it all just comes down to week 2. If week 2 is good for it and it has some legs going between this weekend coming up on Monday, you might have a hit here. Or this movie's just gonna fizzle out at maybe $300 million. It looks like this movie's just going to completely, potentially, either hit really big, or it's gonna end up even coming out below where we thought, and maybe end up where I said in the first video when I started covering this movie, could end up as a box office flop. Because if this movie doesn't pass like $400 million, that's bad. And at that, you're already probably still breaking even. So we'll see what happens with Venom The Last Dance at the worldwide box office. I know I told you guys I was going to end up doing a full day of going to the movie theater on it. I still might, actually. I still plan on to. It just depends on when can I go on my next day off. I'm just looking at my theater showtimes, and I was gonna go today, but I did not end up getting paid, obviously, at the time. I'm getting paid, obviously, on Friday. So I'll probably end up I'll probably just do an episode of Full Day of going to the movie theater on this movie when I have my next day off and just do that. I mean, it would have to be like Thursday or Wednesday. So it really just depends, obviously, where that's at. So, yeah. Thank you guys for checking out this video. If you guys are returning viewers or new viewers, then please consider subscribing to the channel if you have not already. Leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it and comment down below. Also, make sure you guys hit the notification bell. That way you guys can get notified on whenever I upload a brand new video or go live. I'm MSK, aka Master Swag King, and I will see you guys later. See you guys. I'm out. Deuces. Peace.